He went up to the mountains. Oh my god, he's at the tippity toppity of the mountains. And then at the very top, all he saw was a reflection of himself, like the one song from the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Jackson, The Man in the Mirror. Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to SSS, a serious Senjo session with a non serious intro. But yeah, today I want to talk about, well, first of all, let me clarify something here. You know, normally the channel's about goofing and goobing our way to victory in various video games and just having an entertaining. The main focus is to entertain and just be funny and positive. But of course, humans are not so simple. Sometimes you need a little serious Senjo session. Not with, you can erase the Senjo part, but sometimes you need a super serious moments. They're kind of important. So that's why most of this is going to be uncut, aside from the times where I will pause and you won't obviously know that I paused for 2 minutes trying to gather my thoughts, because I do that sometimes. I contemplate, I stare at the wall. Who hasn't stared at the wall? People have stared at many people have stared at the wall. The metaphorical wall. It might not even be a real wall. Oh my god. But today's topic is about genuine, the emotion, invoking the emotion, being genuine in the form of YouTube videos. I don't want to use the word content. I hate that word. I really do hate that word, because it's too generic. It generalizes everything, and it's normal for people to do that. Just generalize everything. Name it content. Everything's content. This is content. Oh my god, content. I don't know. I don't think there's not really anything super wrong with it, but I think there's connotations when you call something content that oh my god, this is content, and it falls under these preconceptions that oh, the person's only doing content because they want to become famous, blah blah blah, this and that. And it's it detracts from what would be a really good quote unquote content, where it's just oh my god, this video is just really funny for the sake of being funny, and wow, I'm having a good time watching this. To me, this isn't content, but I mean it is, obviously, because it is it's content creation. I don't know, it's just I'm not articulate enough to explain how I feel about it, but basically I hate labeling everything. I don't think everything needs a label. Sometimes it could just be this enigma, this mystery, and oh my god, just live, just bask in it. Bask in the amazement of the mystery. It's like watching freaking a goat of a sport play. When Tiger Woods hit that golf ball, oh my god. How do you put that into words? What a master. But even I have fallen prey to this trap known as content, quote unquote, because I think at first when I started, when I started this channel 6 months ago, I was not in the trap, but then I got caught in the trap of the numbers. Oh, the analytics. Oh my god, the algorithm. Oh, it doesn't like me. Oh, wah. And I barely just got out of that a few days ago, I would say. And I have Sir Devin Nash to thank for this. I'll link that video, and I'll put the thumbnail of that video right here. But basically, he kind of goes over a few reasons and topics that I really like, and I think his point of view is pretty spot on when it comes to this, because if you really go back in time, go through the time machine real quick and go back to where it was Modern Warfare 2, and people were really making videos, and Machinima was top dog, but then even Machinima was the first people that entered the scene, so they were quote unquote the first content agency, if you will, and everything was very raw. But that was the best part, because everything was so raw. Everything felt like you're not just watching this like a TV show, right? You can put on any TV show and it's in the background, but the real good shows are the ones that hook you in, right? Same thing goes with YouTube videos. It's not any different. And that's how it was back in the day, is because everything you would watch was very from the heart, right? Not to say that stuff doesn't exist from the heart today, because that's kind of the whole rant I had at the very beginning of the video, is that like I don't like labeling everything these days as quote unquote content, because I feel like, well, here we go. Now I've gained clarity after 3 minutes of staring at the wall. I feel like labeling everything as content makes it seem like it's soulless, which it's not. Some of it is. Can't deny that. I'm even victim to looking back at some of my last videos of the past 2 months, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of soulless, bro. Where's the heart? Where's the human factor? Where is it at? And then I was just like, me in the mirror, you're pretty right. You're pretty right. These videos are kind of buns. But I mean, they're there because now they're there, and I'll look back and I'll be like, wow. The shadow me is like, wow, these videos suck, bro. That's a Persona reference, I'm sorry. But yeah, let's go back to the Devin Nash thing, where he is basically essentially talking about how he talks about a few things that I wrote down that really resonate with me. And one of the first things that he said was focusing on the wrong things, creating only for views, which is what a lot of people do. It's a trap. Your views don't really, I mean, it's really hard to say that in like a very numbers game area, like numbers game field, because you know it's the same thing like with clothes, right? Or like any type of brand, you would want your brand's numbers to go up, whether that be impressions, you know, more people see it, whether that be sales, whether you're selling a product, you know. And content creation is also a numbers game. You want your views, in this case, the number to go up. But the truth of the matter is you shouldn't create only for views. He goes on to talk about in the video that you should create art. You should tell your story. You should create for a reason other than just views. I'm very much ad-libbing this and not talking about the full story, because I very much encourage you to watch his video, because he's extremely articulate on it. And I'm mostly just telling this from the perspective of somebody who is absorbing it as the creator he is speaking to. He then goes on to say, you know, creators are artists. I'm excluding the content part. Icky word. And you should get good at perfecting your art. Well, that's the part I put. I put that in my little notes here. My inspiration notes. Go back to these notes when you feel like a sad sack, and then I click on it and I'm like, oh my god, I'm no longer sad. But he is right. So like a good example that I have from the past, because I'm so obsessed with the past, because that's really what got me into all this, is RB and the Chief. That's an old name that some old fogies on the internet probably know, because it was a machinima. Machinimas back then were like these gaming movies, I guess is the right way to put it. They would just use in-game assets to tell a story. And RB and the Chief was one very popular one because Halo was big dog back then. And it had nothing to do with like being a creator. He just told a good story, like a content creator, right? Like the story wasn't focused about the man behind RB and the Chief, Digital Fear. He was literally just telling a story using these characters as assets. And that was his art. Obviously, the whole the whole general art form of machinima has, you know, fallen down over the years, but doesn't change the fact that RB the Chief was a banger for those that were there for it. And if the old archives were still around to watch it, it would probably still be regarded as a classic, but Machinima took down all of their archives, so I think you can only like maybe someone still recorded RB and the Chief. I haven't actually tried to search. So a few other things he goes on to talk about is that you should invoke emotion and tell a story. And then in my little notes I put express yourself, and that's true, right? You don't want to be generic. I don't think anyone wants to be like someone else, but it inevitably happens in the YouTube game because you know, there's a million channels. There's a million channels saying for all the algorithm, do this, do that. If you do this in your video at the intro, it'll get you more watch time. Blah, 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 blah. And the truth of the matter is, it really, like, do what feels right for your tale, for your story you're trying to tell with the video. Don't like force yourself into some stuff. That's what I've unfortunately have fallen victim to lately. I make it sound like it wasn't my choice, but I thought, oh my god, it would be really good, but then I kind of like tricked myself into it. It's like I think by doing so, like one thing that I can add as an example is like I thought by adding an intro to every single one of the videos, it would enable me to express myself. But in reality, I don't really like doing the intros for all my videos. Maybe for some, right? But not every video needs one, and it's not exactly the best way to express, especially if you're just forcing the idea just to make your video quote unquote more appealing for technique or tactics or blah blah blah, this or that, right? Another thing that he mentioned was tell a story and put yourself in the seat of the viewer. This is another thing that I used to have that I eventually lost when I started focusing on the numbers, Mason. Oh my god. The numbers really don't matter. What matters is this is actually really hard also, by the way, but you have to put yourself out of the creator and into the viewer, which is very difficult to do because you have the full behind the scenes access to everything that happens. You don't like this part, you don't like this line in the video, oh, you can cut it. Oh, you don't like how you said this here, oh, just re-record it. Just do a little ad-lib line or completely omit it from the entire video. So like, because you have the access to essentially make changes to the viewer experience, it's always really hard to tell yourself to just sit down and watch it. Like actually watch it. Don't think about making changes. Don't even have the thought of making changes in the mind. Just see how just sit down with like a rough draft, essentially. It's like in writing. I'm not a writer, but the very minimal essays that I wrote, you would kind of rough draft it and then you would final draft it. Some people were gods and just put the rough draft as the final draft, or they were lazy. Depends, you know. Story's different. But I think especially in creation of content, can't say that word. It's important to tell a story and to not view it as a creator, but view it as a viewer. Because the truth is there are way more viewers than there are creators. And that seems like something so obvious to say, but it's a very... People skip over the obvious, which is why I like Devin Nash's videos, because he kind of brings the obvious back into the light. And it's like that unspoken like truth about how this all works, right? That people kind of people have lost sight of. IMO. Maybe it's not as dramatic and I'm romanticizing it, but I kind of like to do that. And the last part is F the algorithm. Omitting the curse words, because I just don't like cursing. Okay? Because I already see the comments now. Oh, dude, he didn't fully cuss. Why didn't he fully cuss? Wow. I just didn't want to. Leave me alone. Make the video with no algorithm thoughts in mind. I fully agree. When you keep thinking about these numbers and like views, impressions, blah, 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 this and that, it really doesn't matter. And I say that because like, how does something start, right? How is there a million YouTubers that quote unquote compete with each other, right? It's because each YouTuber tells a unique story. And it might not be like, it could all be about the same topic, but the execution of their story just has minute differences. And that's kind of what's important. Like, it doesn't really matter that you say things, that you talk about topics that everyone else does. What matters is how you tell it, because at the end of the day, you tell it your way. You only start to fail and see numbers dip when you get compared to others. Sure, you can be similar to this person or that person. There's nothing really wrong with that, but that shouldn't be your goal. Because I know now, I know if I hear somebody say that about my content, I'm like, oh shoot, I must be doing something wrong. Now as a viewer, they can have that thought because that's just what happens, right? It's like I can make a comparison back to sports. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. They compare them all the time because they're very similar, but not exactly the same. And that's the truth. They were not exactly the same. I'm sure there are a million other comparisons I could make, but you know, at least from the creator perspective, you don't want to follow an algorithm, because then following an algorithm or following a Mr. Beast tactic, you don't want to be Mr. Beast. Maybe you do because you want Mr. Beast has, but in doing so, you will never make it to Mr. Beast's level because you've lost your unique voice, you've lost your unique story. You're just plagiarizing at that point. There's no soul. So yeah, that was an SSS, a serious Senjo session. I should upload this, but for some reason, if it doesn't make it to the big screen, that means I was a big baby about it, and I didn't post it. But then this is also a conundrum, because then saying all this and then still posting it makes it feel weird. So we're just gonna roll with it. Thanks for watching, guys. Serious Senjo sessions. This is just basically me freaking venting and talking about a certain topic, but yeah, it was fun. Thanks to like the 2 people who watch this, and I will catch you guys in the next one. I am going to do all of this and get better and improve. Number one thing to take away from this: algorithm is stupid. Your numbers mean nothing. Tell a good story. Bye-bye.